Bobbie Roberts, and I certify that this work is completely my own. 1 in every 750 people in the United States are diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, commonly referred to as MS. Chances are someone in this room, either themselves or a friend or loved one, has been impacted by this disease. This class gave me the opportunity to volunteer with the National MS Society at their Bike MS event, and it really opened my eyes to the impact that MS has on people, families, and our community. My hope today is to share with you a little bit about my volunteer time with the MS Society, a few communication concepts, a communication principle, and some civil and ethical implications that I felt were really represented during my service time. I'd like to start by giving you just a little bit of information about the National MS Society. The first, which is up here on my slide, but you can't see it, is their value, and it's very simple, or their vision, I'm sorry. Their vision is a world free of MS. And their mission, according to their website, which is nationalmssociety.org, is that people affected by MS can live their best lives as we, the society, stop MS in its tracks, restore what has been lost, and end MS forever. So just to give you a little bit of information about the Bike MS event that I volunteered at, I volunteered alongside my husband, some of the National MS Society staff, and a handful of other volunteers. The Bike MS event is a cycling event, so it's bicycles, in case anyone didn't know that. And what happens is a couple of dozen bicyclists come together, they pay a registration fee, and they go to local either individuals or businesses to get sponsorships for this event. And then Saturday morning, they ride their bicycles from North Little Rock all the way to Hot Springs Village. They stay the night, and then the next day, they ride back from Hot Springs Village to North Little Rock. So it's quite the journey for them. My responsibilities were in North Little Rock Sunday morning. We got there bright and early to kind of help set everything up to prepare for the cyclists to come back. So we set up several tents that had a place where they could eat lunch. There was a hydration station which had water and different types of Gatorade. There was a chocolate milk station, which I'm not big in the cyclist community, but apparently that's a really big deal to them that they have to have their chocolate milk. A local brewery came and set up a beer stand. There was a massage place and several other things. So that's mostly what I did, was helping prepare for them to come back, as well as setting up the finish line arch and banner. And then we just waited for them to cross the finish line, where we could really just cheer them on and show them our gratitude for taking time out of their lives to participate in this event. So now that I've told you a little bit about the mission and my service experience, I'd like to tell you about some of the communication concepts that I felt were really embodied during my service time. The first of those is empathy, and empathy is defined by Lane, Abigail, and Gooch in our Communication and Civil Society textbook as attempting to understand the thoughts and feelings of others, and also to vicariously experience the emotion of others. Although myself and several of the volunteers and even the cyclists that participated in the event were not themselves directly impacted by MS, they may have had a friend or a loved one or a coworker, or maybe even no one that they specifically know that's impacted by that, but they put themselves in the shoes and in the mindset of someone that had been impacted by that disease. And I think that's what really drove, especially the cyclists, to make such a long journey, was being able to empathize and relate to the people that have to deal with this on a daily basis. The second communication concept that I felt was really represented is appreciation. And Lane, Abigail, and Gooch in our 2015 textbook defined this as a relationship maintenance tactic of communicating that we feel grateful or that we are thankful. And I think this was really shown in two specific ways during my volunteer time. The first was that the cyclists showed their appreciation to all of the people impacted by MS by participating in the event. They took the time not only to make that journey, but they went to different businesses and individuals to sponsor them so that the National MS Society could have funds for research. Secondly, the volunteers and the National MS Society staff, we showed our appreciation to the cyclists by making sure that along their journey from North Little Rock to Hot Springs Village and back, there were several different rest stops where they could go to get a drink, a snack, or rest. And then when they got back to North Little Rock, we had all the tents set up. We awarded them with medals and just really showed them our appreciation for everything that they had done for the event. In addition to communication concepts, I felt that there was one specific communication principle that was really shown that day, and that is that communication is simultaneous. As defined in our 2014 or 2016 now course manual, simultaneous communication is the constant exchange of behaviors that can be interpreted by the other. I think this is a principle that we see in our everyday conversation, but it was especially represented that day because as I spoke with some of the other volunteers, the MS Society staff, or just, the cyclists that were there, we didn't have a specific script that we had to follow. They didn't hand me a piece of paper and say, you can only say these words. It was just a constant exchange of communication, and it was exactly that. It was simultaneous. If they said something that triggered something in my mind, I responded with that. So in addition to communication concepts and communication principles, there are 2 civil and ethical implications that I thought were really shown during my volunteer time. The first, and to me the most obvious, is caring with grace. And in our course manual, this is defined as understanding and meeting the needs of people we interact with. I think this whole event kind of shows the idea of caring with grace. No one would have participated in the event or in any of the society's events if they didn't care about the people that were impacted by that disease. Because like I said earlier, they may not be impacted by it directly, but they care enough about the people that are and about their community that they were willing to make that long journey. Or myself, I was willing to get there extremely early in the morning to get everything set up. The second civil and ethical implication is responsibility, and this is defined in our course manual as holding ourselves accountable for our choices, actions, and communication with others. I feel like the National MS Society as a whole kind of embodies the idea of responsibility. The society has taken responsibility for raising funds and awareness to help the people that are impacted by multiple sclerosis every day. They didn't have to do that. The funder of that society, they could have just gone about their everyday lives, but they took the responsibility upon themselves to make sure that everyone was aware of that. The National MS Society is making changes in the lives of people within our community, and you can do that too if you choose to volunteer. Today I shared with you a little bit of my service story, some communication concepts, a communication principle, and civil and ethical implications that I felt were truly represented within my volunteer service. As I stated earlier, 1 in every 750 people in the United States are diagnosed with MS. My question for you is, what are you doing to help?